The Bogdana Corporation is proud to present Let's Talk About Health with your host, Robert Anderson. He'll talk about all aspects of health, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Now here's your host, Robert Anderson.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Talk About Health. We have a guest with us today. Her name is Karen. And Karen's going to report to us her experience with the Bogdana nutritional formulas and skincare products. And we're going to speak with her in a moment. But before we do, we'd like to start our show with a thought for the day. And this thought is about dignity. And I quote as follows. The first one is from Aristotle. Dignity consists not in possessing honors, but in the consciousness that we deserve them. And here's another one I like by Philip Messenger, and I quote, "True dignity is never gained by place, and never lost when honors are withdrawn." And I think also what helps with dignity too is feeling good, because I think when we feel good, we can have the consciousness to be dignified and concerned with our own dignity and the dignity of other people as well. And very often, not feeling well makes us irritable. And one type of problem that makes a lot of people irritable and makes them perhaps not themselves is the idea of fatigue. And so many people call up the Bogdana Company, Bogdana Corporation, and it seems like the biggest complaint that people have is their fatigue, lack of energy. And actually, fatigue shouldn't be something that we worry about if it's a result of swimming a mile or running a marathon. But when fatigue is not directly tied to physical exertion, it may indicate an underlying health problem or condition. And that type of fatigue is frequently related to dietary deficiencies and sometimes also abuse of caffeine or other stimulant drugs. Or it could be due to chronic fatigue syndrome, which is certainly a lot more than just fatigue. And, of course, that's what I had, was chronic fatigue syndrome. And everyone out there who's suffering from it knows full well that it's much more than fatigue. Or fatigue, if it's not related to running a mile or physical exertion, it's also suspect that it could be hormonal changes like menopause or other causes. But it's certainly important to identify and address the underlying cause of the fatigue as a therapeutic goal, because if you feel fatigue and it's not due to a lot of physical exertion like running the mile or swimming a certain distance, then it's due to something else, and it could be an indication that something else is going on with the body. And fatigue is common, by the way. It's a common symptom among people who also have deficiencies in iron and potassium and the B vitamins or zinc. And so in addition to a well-balanced diet, it's probably also a good idea to have an excellent nutritional supplement formula like Bogdana in order to make sure that we have an adequate amount of these nutrients that sometimes are found to be part of the missing link when we do feel fatigue. But oftentimes people, too, when they suffer from fatigue, what they look for is a quick energy boost from caffeine-containing herbs like coffee, tea, and others that exist also. And what it really happens, too, when we take those types of drugs like caffeine is we may get stimulation for a while, we may get some quick energy, but actually frequent stimulation of the nervous system by coffee can cause nervousness. It can contribute to insomnia and possibly even circulatory problems. And that, by the way, the essence of that was derived from quoted from the Natural Handbook of 1994. But we want to welcome at this point our guest, Karen. Karen, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Robert. How are you?
Pretty good. You've been on the Bogdana formulas for quite some time now. How long ago did you start on Bogdana, Karen?
I started in June, the beginning of June.
Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons why I gave that excerpt about fatigue is it is a common problem that a lot of our customers seem to have, and they're looking for the answer in the Bogdana nutritional formula. But it's also what you started off having. I think one thing that you did report about your own health in the beginning when you first started taking the product is you were having fatigue. Can you talk a little bit about how you felt at that particular time?
Yeah, well, that's true. Somewhere around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would get so tired that I literally couldn't function anymore. I mean, I had to sit down and rest and either take a nap or my head would get very light and just couldn't continue the day. I mean, I do have children, so I would have to go on with whatever else I had to do, but one of the stimulants you were talking about was the caffeine. I would go to the caffeine so that I could finish up doing what I had to do with the family, but that was true. I was very fatigued at that point.
Mm-hmm. And also, you also found out that you had an underlying disease, which brings us back to the way we started the program, that oftentimes fatigue, if it's not due to running long distance or some sort of excessive physical exertion, that there might be some sort of an underlying problem. And along with fatigue, you found out that you were suffering from a disease that was diagnosed. And what was that disease?
It was diagnosed as granuloma annularia.
Mm-hmm. And what is that exactly? Can you give our audience a little description about what that disease is?
Well, according to my doctor, he quoted it as a mystery disease, and he said that they weren't really sure what it was, where it came from, or how to treat it. What he did say is, because I had one of the spots biopsied to find out exactly what it was, is that the way he explained it to me is that the cells underneath my skin would get sick, the sick cells, and they would clump together, and the sick cells would remain in a certain part of my body, and then they would start to erupt underneath my skin, causing spots underneath on top of my skin, sort of red, lumpy type spots. Mm-hmm. Some of them, it would start out like a pea, and then they would get as big as, one in my underarm was as big as 4 inches in diameter by 5 inches long. Mm-hmm. And then it would disappear. It would stay for a while, and then it would move and go to another part of my body, and then that would start to grow. And he did say that a certain percentage, I've had this for 6 years. It started out at my knees, and then it has traveled throughout my body. Mm-hmm. He said that a certain percentage, this is a few years ago, of people 25% of the people that have this mystery disease would become diabetics. Mm-hmm. And then he changed it about a year ago to tell me that 50% of the people become diabetic.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've been on Bogdana Nutritional Formula for about 10 months now, and what's going on with that feeling of, it was kind of, would you describe it as an excessive or overwhelming fatigue, or was it a mild fatigue that you had at that time?
I felt it as an overwhelming fatigue. I mean, it was where I really could not function, where I had to just sit down and like something was just come over me. The fatigue would just come over me, and I couldn't go on. And once I've rested for a while, I would, get back up and do what I'd have to do, but I just felt an imbalance in my whole system. Mm-hmm. And even before I was diagnosed, I had that feeling. Mm-hmm.
Now, what we understand, too, is that you've been on it, as I said before, 10 months on the Bogdana Nutritional Formula. What's going on? What went on in respect to detoxification? Because so often we talk about when we take Bogdana formulas, the nutritional formula, that we go through cleansing or detoxification. That's for the first, that phase is usually about 2 months for the average person. Did you go through an apparent detoxification?
Yes, I did. Mm-hmm. Probably it was my second, actually it was my second and third month, and I was still very fatigued.
And so you were noticing detoxification symptoms around the second and third month?
Yes, okay. And beyond that. I had swelling in my ankles, swelling in my feet, swelling in my hands. My face would swell. It would I would be sitting there, and all of a sudden they would start to swell up, and then they would go down. Yeah. All the extra parts of the extra things that you do when you detox. I had all that. You
had all the coughing up of phlegm and
the phlegm and the extra.
And, of course, being that you were overwhelmingly tired, or fatigued anyway, you didn't notice anything in the way of extra fatigue from the Bogdana during the detox phase, did you?
Well, I was even more fatigued, I think. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was thinking, lay down. That's really what I was thinking. And I really planned to, because I'd known about the detoxation period, and I planned it for the summertime because with my family, I'm very busy at school time, so I knew I would have that time to rest as much as I could
Yeah, well,
in the summertime.
See, our theory at Bogdaner is that one of the most important things that can happen to the health is for people to go through detoxification. And what actually happens when we take the Bogdaner nutritional formula is that the energy in the formula helps to stimulate the cleansing system within us to come back to excellent working order. So probably what really happened to you is that your own cleansing system started working really well, Karen. And then a lot of poisons, a multitude of poisons came out of your body. And 9 out of 10 people detoxify through the urinary tract and the bowels, and they hardly know anything is happening. But when you're highly contaminated, when you have a problem health-wise, as you do, you had a diagnosed disease that's rather unusual, then what could happen is that you can feel detoxification. Of course, one of the things you probably didn't know at the time is that you can control detoxification or cleansing, and that's by just cutting down the dosage to 1/3 of a teaspoon once a day instead of twice a day. And also, it's very important to drink the water for the first 2 months during detoxification. Most people go through an average time period of about 2 months for detoxification or cleansing. And during that time, it's a great idea to drink a minimum of 5 glasses of water every day to help flush out the poisons. And at what point then did you start? Did you ever get to a point where you started feeling energy then?
It took a while, but somewhere around Christmas time, I started to feel where I was getting more energy.
You see, that's a sign that detoxification is over. And a lot of people ask us, well, how do you know when detoxification is over? And that's a fair question. You know when detoxification is over when you start to feel the energy and the good benefits. How long a customer is going to detoxify is relative to a lot of variables. For example, how much contamination is in the body, how effective is the detoxification system of the individual, how badly has it broken down. There are a lot of variables that are involved. We really don't know how long it's going to take for the individual to detoxify. We just know that the average is 2 months. And some people, of course, detoxify and it's over within about a month and they hardly know anything has happened. But once again, it can always be controlled by dropping the dosage to 1/3 of a teaspoon twice a day. So what type of a feeling did you have after being on the formula for about 4 months when you finally reached the point where you were feeling energy? Was it a real obvious, noticeable a surge of energy?
Yes. I mean, I felt, I guess it was more of a gradual thing where, being as busy as I am, I just could see that I could stay up later without wanting to fall asleep at 9 o'clock. And I didn't have that 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, such a fatigue where I couldn't get up and continue to do what I normally do. But I felt very good, and I feel very good now. I have a lot of energy, and I don't need the stimulant of coffee like I used to at one time.
Well, that's...
And I think a lot much clearer than I had, and I feel good. Very good.
That's good to hear, and I'm delighted that happened because I know with your challenge of raising a family and all the things you do, having energy is important. But if there's anyone out there who would like to order our catalog that explains the unusual science in the Bogdaner nutritional formulas, or our nutritional products or skincare products, give us a call at 1-800-52-HEALTH, H-E-A-L-T-H, as in 52 weeks of good health. And we also have nutritional formula of various sizes. We have a $29 1-month supply, and we have a $55 2-month supply, a $79 3-month supply, and those are approximate sizes, and there's a money-back guarantee on the first purchase. So order the economy size, whereby you can get to a point where you go through detoxification, get rid of the poisons, and get to a point where you can feel some of the energy and the good benefits that we talk about. And we also have skincare products, and they're rather unusual. We feel that they're the only true skincare products in the world, in that you can actually read the label. You can read vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin B, and so on. You don't read a long list of chemicals that probably are harmful for the skin that are within so many skincare products. And with the skincare products, we have a collection of 6, and we have a starter kit that retails for $39.95, whereby you'll get some idea of how they work and perhaps that they work well. And that particular starter kit lasts for approximately 3 weeks. And then also we have a large skincare collection, once again, consisting of all 6 skincare products, and including the shampoo. And that lasts for approximately 4 months. And It's that when you buy all 6 of the large collection collectively, then you get a discount. It's discounted from $297 then down to $239. And we have a lot of unusual products that are very interesting. And give us a call if you want to find out more about them, or if you'd like to order them. Give us a call at 1-800-52-HEALTH, as in 52 weeks of good health, or 1-800-524-3258. That's 1-800-524-3258. Operators are standing by now, as they will be all week long. And for those people who just tuned in, you're listening to Let's Talk About Health with me, Robert Anderson. And this program is sponsored by the Bogdana Corporation. And we're talking with Karen, who's telling us about her experience with the Bogdana formulas. But also, Karen, one of the findings that, one of the theories, rather, that Joseph Gruber has, and he's the research scientist who's invented all the Bogdana formulas, is that when we have toxins in our body, and of course today his theory is that the detoxification system within us is breaking down, and we're beginning to retain a lot of poisons, and I think the fact that so many of the major diseases are characterized by toxins in the body, including cancer, chronic fatigue, multiple sclerosis, and many others, I think that underscores the idea that Joe might be right about that. The toxins in the body are very prevalent. They're being retained by the body. And his theory also about feeling energy is that when toxins are in the body, the energy flow that goes through the body is being blocked. And it's not until we get the toxins out of the body that the energy can flow freely and we can feel that energy. But energy is tied to so many things. We all want that feeling of energy. Energy is also tied to an immune system. If we have a weak immune system, then it's likely that we're going to constantly feel fatigued. And those are some of the some of the elements or some of the components involved with feeling energy. And then once again, too, if we have toxins blocking the cells and filling up the cells, then nutrients cannot possibly get into the cells. The toxins, according to Joe, or his theory, is that they're blocking the entry of the nutrients. And all of this sounds very logical to me, and I know that I was like you. I was on the formula for a while before I began to feel that surge of energy. I went through a very obvious detoxification, and it wasn't until it was over that I did start to feel some of the energy that is spoken about so frequently on this formula. But as much as I like to talk about your experience, Karen, I think you've had some, I think the greatest benefits that you have gotten from the formula really relates to your family, and maybe we can talk about that. One child that you have, her name is Melissa, seems to have derived a great deal of benefits from the formula. Can you tell us about your daughter's experience with taking Bogdana?
Yeah, Melissa is doing really good now. In September, Melissa was diagnosed from the doctor as having severe sinus infection.
Mm-hmm. How old is Melissa, by the way?
She's 8.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
That's okay. She was troubled from, not this past winter, but the winter before, with different viruses. She was getting set down with different kinds of viruses. I would know because I would bring her into the doctor to get her checked. And then as the warmer weather came around, I figured, she should start feeling a lot better. But as the warmer weather came around, she was starting to feel a lot worse. She was getting severe headaches. She was getting swollen glands. At one point, she had a swollen spleen. She had a sore throat. I'd take her into the doctor. He would take blood tests and test her for mononucleosis. And, well, his last, to make a long story short, his last diagnosis was that she had this severe sinus infection. And I was a little concerned because from what I understand, when people that have sinus infections, they usually have these severe headaches that don't go away. And her symptoms would start and last for anywhere for 2 to 3 days, and then she would be fine. Mm-hmm. And then maybe a week or 2 weeks later, depending on her little well period, then she would come down with the same symptoms again for 2 or 3 days, and fever. She would have fever with that, throwing up phlegm, and then that would pass, and then she would be fine. So even though he diagnosed her with a sinus infection, I couldn't understand because it's something that just doesn't let up on itself. Mm-hmm. And he did prescribe for her antibiotic for a solid 3 weeks. He wanted her to take this so that it could get into her flesh, up into her sinuses. And if it didn't work, I should come back. Well, he wanted me back anyway, and then if it wasn't all cleared up, he said he would continue her on more antibiotics. And I happened to, I was listening, I was already on taking the nutrient formula, and then I heard you talk over at Phyllis's house, and you were sharing again and about the body and how it would be imbalanced and how it needs to be balanced to really heal itself. And I just knew that this is what Melissa needed, because she had periods of time that she would come down with lots of congestion, and it was something that was coming and going. In fact, I had stopped in a health food store, and a specialist over there had said that she sounded like she had Lyme's because of the way the symptoms
Yeah, I
would
was
come
just
and
going
go.
to say she had some of the hallmark characteristics of Lyme disease. So tell us about that.
Well, I mentioned it to the doctor, but he just said, "Oh no," he goes, "It's not Lyme's. It's a sinus infection." And he did take the blood out of her and checked all that for her.
Did he test her for Lyme disease?
He never
tested her?
No, he never tested her for Lyme's. He said he didn't want to.
Sounds like, well, a lot of them sound like the hallmark characteristics of Lyme disease. I mean, after all, she had a lot of vomiting. She had swollen glands. She had problems with swollen spleen, dark circles under her eyes. So a lot of these things are some of the hallmark characteristics of Lyme disease. But it would have been interesting had he given her a test to see if she had it. But go on with your story about Melissa.
Well, he did prescribe the antibiotics, and that it was the sinus, and he was pretty set on that it was not Lyme's. I guess he had heard so much about it. But this the fellow at the health food store, the nutritionist, he said, sounds definitely like Lyme's. You better get her checked. But it happened to have been the day after I had talked you had talked over at Phyllis's, and then I had made a decision that that's what she needed. She needed the nutrient supplement. She needed something to build her body up strong again. And I just was really strong on the fact that antibiotics were going to maybe take care of a matter that he said was there, which I didn't believe was there, but also it would break down her system too. Because that's what was happening. I mean, there was periods where her well time was becoming less and less, and it was more symptoms than well time. So I made that decision that she was going to start the nutrient formula twice a day, and we did, and she did that, and she stayed on that, and this past winter, and she has not been sick through the whole winter time.
Wow, after all this illness that she had for so long, she hasn't been sick all winter now?
No, she had 2 little sore throats.
That's beautiful.
Yep.
Wow, I bet she's happy.
Oh, she is happy. In fact, even through the winter, not this past winter, the winter before when she was not feeling well, in the corners of her mouth, she would get these cold sores that would spread out to the sides of her face. And we would try different things to, help her, because they would get bigger and bigger, and they wouldn't go away. They would just stay for the whole winter season into the spring. And what we did is, in fact, she mentioned it a couple of months ago. She goes, "Mom, this past winter I didn't get any of those cold sores on the sides of my mouth." Also, speaking of the nutritional formula that Karen has been speaking so highly of, it's a rather unusual formula. Number one, it's in liquid form, which in itself makes it very easy to absorb, and it's very easy to take as well. You just take 1/3 of a teaspoon twice a day. And that's the minimum recommended dosage, and it's a very powerful, highly concentrated formula, 150 nutrients broken down to microscopic size. It has every possible nutrient and mineral that you can think of that's good for the human body, including fish lipid oils, primrose oil, and calcium, magnesium, all the amino acids, digestive enzymes. We put digestive enzymes in the formula so that, in effect, the formula is pre-digested in vitro, and it has a natural preservative of honey in it, and for those people with candida, that's nothing to be frightened of, because you're only taking 1/3 of a teaspoon twice a day. That's less sugar than you'd find in a slice of bread. Very unusual formula, and what I liked best about it is that I no longer had to take a lot of these big horse pill vitamin pills that I was taking. I was withdrawing from about 15 jars of vitamins, and our formula is in perfect balance. All 150 nutrients are in perfect balance, same ratio and proportion balance that we find nutrients within food. And of course, all of us who've been doing our homework know the importance of taking the vitamins collectively
and intertwined with each other because they all act and react with each other, and they behave synergistically with each other, acting as catalysts upon one another. And so it's important to take them in this particular form where they're all integrated and bonded rather than isolated form. So give us a call if you want to order a catalog explaining the science behind the Bogdana formulas, or if you want to just order our products, give us a call at 1-800-52-HEALTH. That's 1-800-524-3258. That's 1-800-524-3258. 1-800-52-HEALTH, as in 52 weeks of good health. Operators are standing by now, as they will be all week long. And do remember that your first purchase is a money-back guarantee. We're here with Karen. And Karen, you also had good things happening with your other two children. Bianca, one of your children, began taking the formula too. What was her problem before she started taking the nutritional formula?
Well, about 3 years ago, we noticed that she was breaking out with hives. We weren't really sure what it was from. There was a certain vitamin that I had switched off to and had different herbs in them, but I can't pinpoint and say that's what it was. But it seemed that after these vitamins, then her ears would turn red, and she'd get red blotches under her chin, and her face would get a little puffy, and so she went off those vitamins. But I still saw that at a certain point.
So she was actually allergic to the traditional vitamins. You know why I think that is? One of the wonderful things about Bogdana is because of the energy in the formula, more or less communicating with the identical energy in the cell. What happens is really remarkable, where the cell will only invite into it the nutrients that it needs and wants. With the traditional vitamins, when you take them, the vitamins that are perhaps sometimes unwanted by the cell get in, and then they really contribute to biochemical imbalances and have to be detoxified like a drug. That might be what was happening to Bianca. And so that could have been happening. What happened then?
It could have been because, again, I wanted to be sure, so I asked her if she would take it again. She didn't want to, but she did take it, and again, she did have a reaction, so, could have been that.
So what was the end result of her taking it as far as the positives?
She hasn't had, in this 3-year period, there was one point where she was exposed to some kind of, I had to take her to the doctors for it, where she was exposed to an incense because they were visiting a certain place, and the incense, somehow she was allergic to it.
Well, we have to bring it to an end right now, and it's been wonderful having you on the show, and for all of you out there in the listening audience, this has been Robert Anderson and Karen, wishing you good health and hoping that you live each day as though it were your first day and your last day and your only day.
To obtain further information or to order the Bogdana products, call 1-800-52-HEALTH. That's 1-800-524-3258.